Guilty pleasure, flipping yourself off.
Yeah. What? So yeah. So
I've got a point. Sorry.
Let's start the recording again, Jimmy.
oh, it's already recording. I mean, okay,
Oh.
it's already recording. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4. My computer died. Becca's hand looks like a dick and balls. Well, we're gonna start a really good show. So wait, Becca, what was disturbing about that hand gesture again?
It's just weird to be on the receiving end of it. I found that out, just that it awakened something weird in me to see someone reverse flipping me off.
Wait, did someone actually do that to you?
Not like directly to me. I just saw like someone on the internet doing it, and I was like, "Ooh, don't like that."
A weird way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen anybody do it. I've always
and now I'm going to do it exclusively. I'm going to weaponize this.
Was it an old Karen or something? Like I don't.
No.
Oh.
Old people know. It's only the young people can think of something this diabolical.
I mean, you were telling us before we started recording that apparently the new thing is going like this to people.
Like, well, yeah, but not like that. It's not like you're doing a rude gesture.
Oh,
it's just like
like I don't, I don't.
Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're old.
We should make that a segment. Just Becca comes tell you what the kids are doing these days. Sipping with it.
The youths of the nation, according to Becca Fenn.
It's my job to stay hip and with it.
It's true. I was about to say, now that my new position, I was doing support through social, and now I'm doing the other side of social with my new position. And now it's like my friends and even my wife are like, why are you, how do you know this and this and this? And it's like, I'm on Twitter like half the day. I see what's trending. Like
you just absorb it.
It feels kind of weird because I feel like I'm an old man trying to learn new tricks in like the world of the social. Oh my god!
I like how he says he feels like an old man learning new tricks, but he is in fact an old man learning.
I'm not as old as you, motherfucker.
Hey, I never said you were.
But he's not learning new tricks.
I wasn't also old. I'm just not learning new tricks.
He knows
I'm old doing that.
Lame.
I'm the same shit I know how to do all the time. That's all.
So anyway, so like I said, we're episode 4. My computer shit the bed. I'm on an old laptop, so we're gonna have fun. So anyways, so we want to talk about TV shows, in particular, like our guilty pleasure TV shows. Like not like that way. I mean, unless if you like General Hospital or something, which Schofield?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying.
I mean, my guilty pleasure is about as bad as that, but it's not General Hospital. I've never really been into the soaps.
I know. You haven't even told me that you're officially going to say it, but I already fucking know. I don't know if Becca knows.
I don't have any clue. This is going to be so exciting.
Oh, this is going to be okay. No matter,
you're building it up there, Jimmy.
I wish I was doing the stupid spinner because we got to. No matter what, you got to go last.
All right, I'll go last. That's
yeah.
Fine.
Oh gosh.
I mean, well,
I'll just eat a blueberry and I'll wait. That's cool with me.
He's got to build up the energy to really dunk on us.
Bucket of fruit my wife made for me.
Oh,
strawberries,
that's great.
Blueberries and grapes.
And by make it, you mean she just threw it together?
Well, she chopped up and washed them.
Washed it.
I hope she washed it.
Yeah.
People that don't wash their
don't malign my wife.
Oh, that you about to say something else? I was about to be like, whoa.
Don't do that either.
Yeah, don't do that either. No. That's worse.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I don't think she would stand for that.
Yeah, but like the washing of the fruit, there was one time at my job a couple years ago, I watched an older gentleman in the kitchen using dish soap to clean off the grapes that he was about to eat. And that was one of the grosser things I've ever seen. Like you need to rinse them, but not soap them.
No, they have actual soap for fruit if you want to use
it.
But they make a special spray.
Yeah.
That I've heard actually kind of keeps them for a little bit longer if you use it. But then also some people are like, ooh, chemicals.
I like it for apples because it's like that little like shiny waxy buildup a lot of apples have in the supermarket.
Yeah, because if you sit there under hot water, it takes like
forever.
20 minutes or something.
But I actually find I do that with apples. They actually aren't quite as bitter. The skin's a little bitter. If you eat them, even if you rinse them, you're fine. But they just taste a little bitter. Well, the water, they don't have that bitter taste, which is good. But
exactly. Yeah. So so supermarket, conversation aside. So Becca,
that's our guilty pleasure, watching fruit.
I'm going to go on a million.
Episode over. We're done. Cool.
We should just go. I'm in my workspace right now. my mind is gonna wander. Oh, you know what the grossest thing I've ever seen somebody do in the show?
Your mind is not the steel trap that you make it out to be anyway, Jimmy.
I've never tried to make it. No,
but you're like, oh, mine's gonna wander because of this.
My mind
is,
no. My mind is a lobster trap where there's a ton of holes that just all the little small fish go through.
You can get in, but you can't get out.
No,
that's what your mind.
I mean, you can get out, but it's a fucking hassle and a half. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, your mind's like an IKEA. There's one way out, and you have a hard time finding it.
And it's full of meatballs that nobody wants to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because they're made out of horse. Horse, of course.
Don't malign the Swedes either, man. What is
How many years ago was that?
Yeah, right.
Long
Just to make another old man joke.
Fuck you guys. Oh,
nah.
Yeah.
You can redeem yourself by saying you have a guilty pleasure TV show that's very recent.
Go.
Yeah, mine is extremely recent. Actually, mine is so it's a show called Bluey, Bluey, and it's a kids show. It's from Australia, and I really, honestly, even if I didn't have my kid, I don't give a fuck. This show is amazing. It's actually genuinely hilarious. Like, not all the time, but when it's hilarious, it's funny. It's fucking. Even my wife, who's very she's very picky when it comes to anything like a kids program, and especially anything animated. So the show's about like a world where like instead of humans it's all dogs, so it's cartoon and anamorphic, whatever the fuck the word is.
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah.
Anamorphic is very different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always fuck up on that word. But anyways, so it's a family of dogs, and you got the mom and the dad, you got Bingo, and you got Bluey, the two daughters. You got 4 and 6. And so the show is a lot of people at first I was seeing like people being like, oh, it's like was it Peppa Pig?
Peppa Pig is delightful, first of all.
No. You think Peppa Pig is delightful? This will blow your fucking socks off. This show is not going for the overly like, oh, okay. So how do I describe this? The best way to describe it, I guess, is that it literally is like you're just watching real life, meaning like it's not this whole saturated, like they're billionaires and they're like, mommy and daddy never have to work or anything. And like, like all these non-realistic situations happen where like, like the kids don't go into like imagination land, like in, Muppet Babies, for instance, like the original series from the 80s, or the kids don't like have like they aren't stretching the reality of the situation to make it like, kid friendly or whatever. Like basically like the family just lives life, and like they come up with there's different situations they run into, like one of the kids is depressed because sad because of the fact that like the dad has to go to work or something like that, and they're dealing with that situation, and they're dealing with like one of the episodes was the dad accidentally ate like a fry off the kid's plate that the kid was saving. Like that's a normal kid thing. They do little weird things like that where they hold on to the last fry, even though it's cold as fuck and it's 25 minutes afterwards and they're about to walk out the door. The kid's waiting to eat it literally out the door. So like, like the family dealing with that kind of situation. And so like the other side of it is that not only is it like showing kids how to like kind of, deal with the situation. Like another one is the oldest kid doesn't like the fact that the father keeps on like pausing and talking to adults while they're on their way to the jungle gym. And so like they showed the flip side of it where like she's getting, antsy and stuff, and she's not liking the fact that the father's stopping, but the father's also, then it's being shown like the father can't, he's not liking the fact that like she's interrupting. So they're doing that whole, like they show that like, he's like, why don't you come over and put your hand on my arm and I'll show you that I'm here. And then when there's a natural break, I'll talk to you kind of thing. Like it's showing both sides of it. I don't know. It's also just it's cute as fuck. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just adorable. It makes you feel good, but also like
I love that you love a kids show. I think I've like I love Mr. Rogers and like the psychology behind kids stuff and like just how thoughtful he was in like designing children's shows. And a lot of the old PBS shows were like that, where like I never picked up on it when I was watching them, and I watched them way too late into my childhood because we didn't have like cable for a while. So like PBS was the show that we got for free, or the channel that we got for free. So like I had a close relationship with all those shows, and then like as an adult now I'm looking back and like looking at all the things that they put in and like carefully seeded these lessons and how they presented it to kids and stuff. Like that's cool. I like that you can see that and appreciate it in the show. But I also want to know, is it like one of those shows where it's just like it's just for kids, or does it like seed in little bits that if you're an adult watching you'll like find and think are funny?
So one of my problems, and this is follow me. This will lead into what your answer. So one of my problems with kids shows lately, and the greatest example I can give you guys is a wonderful was it The Amazing World According to Gumball, or whatever the hell that show is called. It's the one where it's another family of like, of animals or whatever. And the problem I have is that literally they've been portraying fathers as complete morons for like the last 30 years. And honestly, I
other than that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, in animated shows, I mean to say, like Homer Simpson was like kind of paved the way, and like before that, you got Archie Bunker and all these other sitcom dads that are complete morons. This show doesn't portray him as a moron. He's portrayed as a normal human being who's interacting with his kids, who's supporting them and supporting his wife, and doing what he needs to do. And the mother's not, an idiot or anything like that in any way. Like none of them are stupid, and they're not caricatures of humans. Like they're actual people, even though they're dog form. But to answer your question, though, when it comes to the father, for instance, he'll fart and he'll burp, which are fucking hilarious. Like there is a couple of jokes, in particular, in between the parents, for instance, that will be kind of like there was one episode I was watching where I forget what the exact comment that was made by like the mom, but like it showed the dad and he kind of looked at her like, oh, you could be taking a sexual way. So yeah, I mean, like there's definitely, I've laughed out loud a lot from the show, way more than I have in any of the kids show that I've been watching lately. Like when my son was really, really young, which was only a year ago, we were watching, and we still do, Baby First. And Baby First is a super, this is a kids television program, and we're going to make this like the whole fundamentals of like learning colors and letters and numbers, and it's the programming that I really dreaded having to watch with my son. And I can appreciate what they're going for, but at the same time, for me as an adult, I just
mind numbing.
Sure, fucking yeah. But this show is fantastic.
It's for the baby.
But I'm kind of sitting there going, when is he going to grow out of this one? But
interesting thing there, though, Jimmy, is like you were talking about, like fathers being portrayed as idiots. I mean, that's a long-standing thing. I mean, some of the most popular cartoon sitcoms like Simpsons, Family Guy,
American Dad,
are all based on the Flintstones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, yeah,
right.
But the thing was that even he back then, I don't even think he was portrayed as not as smart, but I don't think he was definitely as dumb as they've made them.
No, but he was still kind of a bumbling oaf.
Yeah.
Right. He was a bumbling oaf who had a wife who was smart and put together and much prettier than he should have been married to, which is kind of one of the focuses of that show, which is also what The Simpsons are, which is also what Family Guy is.
Yep.
For some reason, that's a very like common trope for some reason.
And that's
even they are
sitcoms too.
Even when they aren't like an idiot, like it's just the old way it was that like the dad would be the one working, so they just have way less time to develop that as a character. So the mom basically did have to be, like a very smart, exciting part of the show, whereas the dad could just show up for his one-liners or whatever, and then the rest of the time he's going to be at work.
And then
so like even when he wasn't an outright idiot, he still didn't have a great part. And nowadays it's much more accepted that both of the parents are working or sharing the responsibilities, so they have that chance to really show like dads being good dads.
Sure.
Mom's good to be funny and silly, which is good.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the other thing about the show is that it doesn't sit there and portray like just one or the other when it comes to the parents as having like the better imagination or whatever. Like they show how like the kids, like the episode I saw today, the kids were playing Queen. And like one of them was the butler and one of them was the queen. And then as they walked through the room, like the mom was all of a sudden like, "Oh my God, my queen, my queen!" And then when the father saw him, he was like, "Oh my, your majesty!" Like they were playing along, but they were both showing. That's a good example as to like them both having imaginations and not just being like, "Oh, he has a really good imagination and hers isn't as good," or none of that kind of crap. Like
or having to be like the stern parent, being like, "All right, guys, pick up your stuff, stop playing or whatever." Like and just like engage with the kids.
Yeah, it's way more like even though my kid is obviously very young, it's definitely still it shows that like they put way more effort into it and showing that what an actual pair of parents look like and act like with the kids. And that whole like good cop, bad cop thing. Sure, when the kid's in trouble, that's definitely going to come down to it. You know, I'm going to be the good cop, but my poor wife, I feel so bad, but she's going to be the bad cop. But
I think she married you.
Exactly. I don't know. I think she tried to figure it out, but I don't know if she ever fully got in. You know, I don't know.
Let me ask you this though. Do you know what the parents' names are in that show, or are they just mom and dad?
No. His name is Bandit, and her name is Chili. Chilli.
See,
Breaking the pattern.
here's the thing I find hilarious, because I do stupid stuff like this. Is I always like taking kid shows and picking apart the world building.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it funny that a world composed entirely of dogs is using, demeaning dog names to describe each other. So like the kid's name is Bingo or Bluey or like Bandit. I'm sure there's a guy named
Maybe
Spot.
that in their own language they might be beautiful names, but
Maybe.
the way we
I just find it really funny, right?
Actually,
no, I have another question about world building. Is Bluey related to Blue's Clues? Like, is this a
not that I know?
Like
and
a little blue dog from that?
Like, they actually as far as I know, there's no connection in any way, shape, or form. It's funny because even though it's made by an Australian company and everybody in the show and involved in the show is Australian, the BBC is putting it out, but then Disney in America is putting it out. So because really quickly, so the show is, each episode is about 7 or 8 minutes long. There's 52 episodes in each of the first 2 seasons. And then the first season is on Disney Plus, and then Disney Now, which is the other streaming platform that they have, which is for their junior, like the Disney Junior stuff. They have the second season, and then eventually the second season will probably be moved over to Disney Plus. But the third season has already been announced and confirmed, so that's going to be happening. So I'm very excited. But world building wise, though, I will say this show is very, very well connected. Well, by the way, I do have to point out, one thing that is funny is that their neighbor, it's as far as I can tell, it's a single dad, and then the boy's name is Lucky, and they only refer to the dad as Lucky's dad. Even like the parents only say it, which I think is kind of one of those. I think that one slides. Everybody else has a name, and I think that one slides because I think it's one of those like jokes, like inside joke kind of thing.
Self-referential.
Oh yeah. So world building wise, though, we're talking like they have a whole interconnecting, family. As far as I know, you've only met Bandit's brother and his family, and then I forget which of the grandparents. I think they feature both sets of grandparents, or at least one or the other, or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I've kind of watched them out of sync a little bit. I don't think I've seen them all yet. But anyways, world building wise with the kids, it's fantastic because like you've got episodes where like Bluey goes to school, and then you meet all the students in that school, and then they'll show up and during play dates or fun times or something like that. And then actually in the second season, they actually introduced a kid named Jack who has ADD, who, I'm not going to lie, as a person with ADD, I watched that episode and was actually very appreciative of what they did with it, because they showed at the beginning that the kid didn't understand why he couldn't sit still in the car and why he kept on forgetting to listen to his dad and then sit still. And then he had this bright little like sibling or whatever that was like, literally, they get to the new school and it's telling the teacher like, oh, he doesn't listen and he doesn't sit well. And then he goes and plays Army with his buddy, and he keeps on saying stuff like, oh, I don't remember numbers and letters and words very well. And then he doesn't remember this, or he can't do that or whatever. But then at the end of this, the entire episode is him explaining to his mom his day, and then remembering all the details of everything that was happening. And they were showing that when he's involved in something that he's really, really interested in, he gets fucking laser focused, which is exactly what my mind is like. If I'm sitting there and I'm not fully engulfed in, fully interested, I should say, in like the TV show I'm watching or something like that, I could be very like laser focused on an article I'm reading or something. So like that was a really, really well done explanation of it. And then like I said, the kids are like they're getting goofier, not goofier, but like they're getting a little bit more ballsy, I think, with the second season, because the first season was a success. Where like the second season, there was an episode that we watched where the kids and the parents were talking about how the kids were about to be dropped off at the grandmother's, and then the parents were like, oh yeah, we need some time away from you guys, and then they started drawing out this imaginary story that was going on the screen, and it was a different art form of like a storytelling tactic that they were doing, and it was amazing. Like I just watch the show; it's amazing. The first season's on Disney Plus, second season's on Disney Now, third season's coming at some point.
Wow.
Just
I
trust me, watch it.
love that you've really got into this.
Oh yeah.
I probably said this before, but if you like the kind of thought and effort that goes into making children's television, in particularly,
Mhm.
Defunctland TV, they
Yeah.
have a YouTube channel. They do
That's
incredible deep dives on shows like from back
yep.
in the day, not current ones, but like it's that same sort of thing of like you don't really appreciate when you're watching it just how much like effort goes into like making sure they have representation for different things like ADHD and all that stuff, and just like how intentional they are, and also like the other things about like how many episodes get like greenlit at a time and all that stuff. And did you just check your phone? uh I might have sent something at the very beginning of
She
this
sent me
episode to both of you
68
guys. I didn't send you. I sent you one penny less.
It's good. It's a good call.
Sorry.
I wanted to see if you would check your phone in the middle of a recording, and you did. And while I was talking, shame
I'm
on
sorry.
you.
All
After I
did
gave
was-
you 68 cents.
He just explained why he did it. He has ADD.
I only checked it because I saw a text from my wife come through. Says she's leaving work. Oh, okay. Now the phone's down. I swear. Oh my god. But
That
just
was a trap.
quick
I'm sorry.
backstory. I sent her friend Abby 69 cents randomly this morning because I saw his name pop up in PayPal.
And I thought that was a cute thing to just send you to your friend and let them know you're thinking of maybe not 69.
Yeah, that was
that's
my problem.
awkward.
That
So I
was
sent you
awkward.
68 cents. Just to let you know that I was thinking of you.
Oh, so good. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Defunctland, yes. So I love like all of his stuff, like the Defunctland on the TV, Defunctland on the theme parks, and Defunctland on there's a third one, I forget what it is now, but they're like I don't normally like to go on YouTube and watch like 35, 45 minute, videos. But for whatever reason, this guy's stuff is fucking amazing. And it just enthralled. It's really ridiculously well informed. It's well edited. The clips that he uses are just, I mean, like there's everything and his voice is really good too. I'm not gonna lie. Like if we can have him on the show to interview him to be like, yo, what the fuck?
That's incredible. I love watching people who are really passionate about certain things, and I don't go to amusement parks much, but I really have found people who are into amusement parks and like amusement park ride history and all that stuff are some of the most passionate people and like the most well researched to like go on and just watch a YouTube video. And I love it. I'm like, I'm never gonna ride this ride, but it's great. I love to hear you talk about it.
Exactly. Like
that's how I got into Funkland, and then they started doing the TV stuff, and I was like, oh my god, these are all the shows that I watched as a kid, and I didn't know any of this stuff about them.
His episode about what was it, Muppet Babies, was the original late 80s, early 90s Muppet Babies was like I was ready to cry by the end of it because it was just like because that's one of those shows where unfortunately it will never as far as we know it will never appear in its original form in any DVD or because of all the copyrights that they had to go through. But it's one of those shows where actually you can find I don't know if it's all or some or most or whatever, but you can actually find some of them, a lot of them on YouTube now, which is great. But the quality.
Did they not show up on Disney Plus really at all?
No, not that I've seen yet. No.
Some things that they intentionally don't. One, like it could be copyright, but they also just did like a big episode on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and because like it's a good one.
Yeah.
But because like a lot of that history has changed, like the maps have changed, some of the countries that they were doing stuff on have changed, so like they're factually inaccurate now. So he was just straight up like, I don't think they ever will put these out just because like what's the point? Like it's wrong information.
Do what they did with what was it the HBO Max thing where they were like they put like the warning of before some of the cartoons when they had like
but like when the whole point of the show is to educate people.
It's just,
just a warning,
and it's just straight up giving you wrong information.
And the thing is,
like, what are they going to do? Bleep that question when they're talking about a map?
Exactly.
Like goes like 2 minutes on top of that one question.
No, so my thing is that I actually agree with the way that HBO handled that because they put up the warning that were like, we're not editing this because we're literally presenting it as what was viewed back then, like how it was presented. And it's not like we're, it was never about apologizing for it or making an excuse for it or anything. It's literally just like, we're going to show you this unedited but here's the warning that this is pretty bad, but this is what the way that the world was back then. I think that one of the things that Disney dips about a little bit is the whole like trying to like hide it and make it look like it never happened. Like the whole thing about
well, it's a different mindset, right?
True.
I mean, I'm not going to say
audiences too.
Yeah, I'm not going to say which is right and which is wrong. I think they both have pros and cons. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get political. We don't want to get political in this podcast, but it is.
Yeah, please don't.
It's different points of view. Some people are like, I don't want to hear about it at all. I want it to be sanitized because I don't want my kids or myself to be exposed to that. Other people are like, it's important to see this stuff and to recognize it when you see it. Mm-hmm. And I think they both have some merits.
Yeah. And I
that's like the big thing there is like the kids, like your audience. When you're like, you don't have your kids just hanging out on HBO as you would on like Disney. True. Like HBO, you could argue, is for like the older people that grew up with it and are going back and looking at it. And maybe if they want to choose to show it to their children, they can make an informed choice because they've been warned. Versus like Disney, it's just let your kid scroll for hours and watch this in the background. And they're not having those conversations, which you need to have with media like that. Because otherwise it's just going to keep perpetuating the same thing that was the problem with it initially.
But speaking of nostalgia, Stacey and I have been watching a lot of classic 90s Nick on Paramount Plus.
Whoa.
We were watching Ari Fair of the Dark and Legends of the Hidden Temple the other day.
Oh, Legends.
Fantastic.
Legends. That was a show I wanted to be on so bad. That and Guts, even though I was a fat little kid. I wanted to be on both of those shows.
It was so interesting looking at like 12 and 13-year-olds in the 90s as opposed to 12 and 13-year-olds nowadays and like how different they acted and talked and dressed and everything else. It's just very interesting to me.
And the fact that
also the prizes.
The prizes were the worst.
Yeah, like I'm not going to run and jump in slime for like a, I don't know, keyboard.
The last time I think it was like the grand prize was like a trip to like the Caribbean or something.
Ooh,
but like, but if you got to the temple, but that's all you got, you're like, here's some candy and like a remote control car.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's like $40. Like, what the hell?
The Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego show would give you like an atlas, and like your big prize for winning was that you could go anywhere in the U.S. Ooh. So like, which, to a kid is probably exciting, but like,
parents are like, great, that's like a $500 trip. Great, that's good job.
I was gonna say the parents are probably like, I trekked you across the country to be on this show, and now we get to go back home for free.
Well, it's just being on TV was such a big deal.
Oh yeah, so
nowadays like we do this, like we're on TV, quote unquote, or whatever, like easy.
Stream us,
right? Well, that's what I'm saying. We have.
We'll be on.
We have film production stuff in our pockets with our phones.
Yep,
it's crazy now. But anyway. We're good enough time. Let me move on to Fenn's guilty pleasures.
Let's move forward a little bit in time. We've gone through a children's show. Now we're going to move on to my guilty pleasure, which are shows I'm pretty sure are targeted at teenagers.
Okay.
So things like Teen Wolf. I really love shitty sci-fi intended for the teenage bracket. So they're like not great production values, not great acting. Actually, all the actors are definitely like in their 30s, but they're trying to be high school kids.
Right.
That kind of
the whole
thing.
Now Wolf syndrome, yeah.
And you're talking about the MTV Teen Wolf one, right? That came out in the Okay.
So we're talking like Roswell sort of stuff, like way back in the day?
Like, yeah, that would have been one.
I got what you're saying.
So yeah, I don't watch TV in the same way anymore. I usually just like binge watch things that other people are watching. YouTube is kind of taken over like my day-to-day TV stuff.
Yeah.
But like that sort of slightly paranormal teen setting gets me every time. But Teen Wolf in particular was a big one for me. I remember because it was right after I got back from college and I was living with my parents, so not a lot going on. And I would it would be a special moment each week where I would like clear my parents out of the living room, like it's my Teen Wolf time. I'm gonna have my McDonald's McFlurry and watch Teen Wolf, even though I'm a 24-year-old woman.
Very comforting, I can see. That makes sense.
But they're really funny and like. Because those ones in particular, like when you've got the melodrama or whatever, like eye roll of these like kids going through whatever their problems are, but then you have to like put it next to them like turning into very bad CGI wolves, and like also sometimes they just run on their hands and legs like not as wolves. That's just like their human thing of like it's great. And every show like that has it. There's certain points where their budget's just not good enough, and they're like, but we've got to get this supernatural aspect in, so we're gonna make them do some stupid. Acting.
You know, this
kids cannot do.
Ka-ching the bank though with it. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing too. I already said that I love watching people who are really passionate about a thing because I don't fully get. I have my waves of passion. I'm also have ADHD, so I get really hyper fixated in
Oh
things and
yeah.
then I lose it entirely. So I can't maintain that level of love for a thing ever, like for a long period of time. But I love watching other people who are, and these types of shows have that crazy fan base where I'm like, no one else I know watches this show. I'm a grown woman. I can go on the internet and just like watch a feed on Twitter of like other people who
Oh,
clearly are really involved in this fandom, just like talking about it and feeling like I'm a part of it without actually needing to like take part and like reveal to the world that I watch Teen Wolf. I also got really into the 100. That one was a little bit more
ooh.
serious,
Actually,
I
but also
I had a
went
problem
off
with
the
100.
rails.
100 was good, but it kind of jumped the shark after a while. Like I was like,
Yeah.
this is what was it? Oh god, it was the main character and the woman who's in charge of like the people on the ground, and that they betrayed each other. Like when that happened, I'm like, you guys are just like inventing conflict to keep the show going. I'm feeling like I'm starting to lose.
Yeah. I stopped watching after a few seasons. But
That actually
like
has potential.
every so often I would hear like an episode synopsis of it and be like, what the like how did they get there? What is happening?
Right?
Like crazy levels of like you have to like it should have ended after like maybe 3 seasons, but like they have to keep inventing new ways to keep it going. And it's
how
just
long did
like
it go
same
for?
thing happened with Teen Wolf. I never actually finished Teen Wolf. I think I missed like the final season, but there was just like certain part I was like, okay, I've had enough.
Well, this
I've reached
that's
my
my
quota.
biggest thing with TV shows in general is I generally this just doesn't reflect my guilty pleasure at all. But I generally like TV shows that have like there's a storyline they're trying to tell,
Mhm.
right? And there's at least going to be some ending to it, or at least some way to end it in a way that we're like, okay, we're kind of wrapped up this storyline, right? Like Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great one. Like the first the
Mhm.
first series, right? There's one central conflict. It wraps up. We're great, you know. And one of my all-time favorites is Cowboy Bebop, right? I don't know if you guys have watched Cowboy Bebop at all
I
by
still need to
Watanabe.
finish it. I still need to finish it.
So it has a very clear story, right? The story is really about Spike more than anyone else,
Mhm.
right? Because the last few episodes are really about wrapping up his story, and it ends in a very kind of ambiguous way. I'm not going to give anything away for you, Jimmy, but it's very up to your interpretation what actually happens at the end.
He dies.
Well, not necessarily. Like the thing is that people have gone to Watanabe a lot and be like, "What actually happens?" And he's like, "What do you think happens?"
Something happens to him.
Like, well, what happens next? And he's like, "Nothing.
Yep.
The story is over.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah,
That was the whole point I was trying to get across. That story is what I was telling. That's it. It's over."
Yeah.
And I enjoy that kind of stuff. And sometimes, especially with like one of the worst shows for me was like Lost was like that. Like they had a storyline. I feel like they've forgot what it was or tried to change it like halfway through, and it got really weird, right? Or shows like Buffy,
Yeah.
which I love. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's a great show. Joss Whedon aside, unfortunately, some stuff going with him nowadays,
that whole thing.
but still a very brilliantly made show. But you could tell after a while, like we're just trying to do stuff to do stuff. Like the last couple of seasons, like we're just trying to continue this on. Or there's a lot of shows that ends up happening.
I mean,
Yeah.
They're just trying to draw it out. American shows more than anything else. Like, oh, if we keep making new ideas, we'll keep making this show, making money. I'm like, yeah, but now you're losing any sort of artistic integrity here whatsoever.
or you got Dexter, for instance. Dexter's another good example. I freaking love the first half of that show, the first 3 seasons, and then you can tell that between season 3 and 4, they changed showrunners, and all of a sudden it got darker and it got stupider. And all this, but the great thing about that show was that it was one of those perfect examples of they have the overarching storyline throughout the entire series, but then each season is well contained within it, but then it's like a huge storyline. But again, they're planting stuff for the final.
Yeah.
But whatever this revival thing that they're filming in Massachusetts for that show, by the way, is, I'm so freaking excited for, because if it can retcon the end of that goddamn show, you know what? They can literally, Dexter can like wake up in the first half a second of the show and go, oh shit, the last 3 years of my life have been a dream. And then go on and do, I will take that. It is the stupidest fucking lame thing to do. I will seriously take it if they literally just go, fuck the last 3 seasons. I will literally take whatever it takes. So anyway.
Yeah.
So completely aside from what Jimmy's asking, which I agree, there are some shows like that. I wish they had done that too. Like, it was still good. My big one is not a TV show, but I just kind of pretend Alien 3 and onward never happened. Just
Mm-hmm.
nope. Alien 1 and 2, and then nope. Rest of the film series just doesn't happen. Newton, Ripley are mother and daughter on the planet, and they're all happy. Oh, yep. Rest of the film franchise just doesn't exist. If you like Teen Wolf, have you ever watched True Blood?
Yes.
Because I'm saying that seems like Teen Wolf just like drunk.
Adult.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just like ramped up to hell. Because I liked that for a while, but I had some real issues later in the series with True Blood.
That was another one I like maybe missed the last season or two. Like I tend to just fall off on these ones that have a never ending. And sometimes it feels like they didn't expect to keep getting renewed for seasons. So like maybe they had an idea of like, 3 or 4 seasons out, like we're kind of the moment we're building to, and then like a couple seasons in, they're like, oh crap, we have to extend it now to like 6 seasons, and you can feel that kind of like weird pacing shift. But True Blood, I wouldn't say is like a guilty pleasure, only because it is like more intended for adults, but it's the same exact thing, just slightly aged.
But just like more appropriate for your age group. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
My issue with that, and little spoiler, I know we're going to talk possibly, one of the things we're talking about is like, unpopular opinions on certain movies or certain media. Okay. And one of my issues with True Blood kind of informs that conversation if we end up having it later, is eventually, if you want to have like an anti-hero or like, is this guy a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Eventually you just have to come down on one side or the other. And if I'm coming down like, no, this guy's a bad guy in a movie, I don't give a crap about him anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And in True Blood, there was a point, I think it was like season 6 or it was, where like the humans are all like decked out in like silver threaded body armor and shooting silver bullets and have UV lights and are just hunting down and killing vampires. And I'm like, good. They're horrible. They're all horrible murderers and rapists and just killers. None of them. The entire show shows you over and over again how all of them are terrible. And maybe are good or bad at certain times, but have been like monsters at certain points in their life. And the one character they have, who's a vampire who ends up killing a bunch of people eventually, and she's upset about it, but she does. And I'm like, yeah, kill them all. There's no reason to keep them alive. Mm-hmm. The whole analogy, like, oh, they're supposed to be like minorities, they're supposed to be about racism. Like, well, that goes out the window when you've presented every single person in that group as being like objectively evil as all hell.
Right.
Yeah,
so, like,
and they've got to keep increasing the ante, so like the things that they do are worse and worse. Mm-hmm. It's the similar problem. A show that I never really got into was The Vampire Diaries, but I recently watched like a really long synopsis of like just how off the rails that got. But like it was the same sort of thing. It's like it starts out kind of like, ooh, like I like really fighting against my nature, whatever, like vampires can be good. But by the end of it, it's just like everyone's done so much horrible shit that it's just like, how can you like forgive this? And also it has I think a similar, maybe to a lesser degree with True Blood, but like with some of the lower budget ones, they tend to like put things out and then see what are audience favorites. And then like, if they like them, they keep them around, which happens a lot with villains. So that you get this like flipping of like, all right, you came in as a villain, but now you're gonna stick around for like 3 more seasons as like a love interest or whatever. Right. But like you've lost the things that made you exciting because now you're like a good guy and everything exciting about you was like your edginess or whatever. So you just get these really horribly written characters because like they don't know what they are going into it. They're just kind of waiting to see how people respond and then updating them next season based on like how much screen time, or like they'll try pairings or whatever and then they'll be like, oh, people didn't like that. Okay, now we'll just try pairing that person off on with someone else. And it's just like it's like there's no direction.
They're just making money. They're not making a show.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, that's why I like watch a few seasons and I just kind of duck out. I'm like, I'm probably not missing anything.
You know what's funny? The way you guys are describing these shows, it reminds me of my attempts of trying to watch the show. Breaking Bad and the show Weeds. Weeds, for instance, I watched. I think the first season and a half or so religiously, and then all of a sudden I fell off the bandwagon. But like, and then all of a sudden they were like living in an RV and they were living with like a dead grandma or something. I don't know, like some weird fucking shit was going on.
Sure.
And the weird part was that like Kevin Nealon, the really tall comedian that was from SNL from the 90s, he's like played like the neighbor or a friend of theirs or something, who has his own house in their town, who apparently uprooted his entire life to go live with this random fucking family that sells weed out in like a different state or something. Like jumping out of it and then back into it for 2 episodes was like fucking bizarre. And then but the way you guys they were talking about how like like bad guys come and go, and they kind of try to like test with the waters with each one. And that kind of seems like I only got through the first season and a half of Breaking Bad, and then hit a really super depressing episode where like Jesse goes and breaks into a house and there's like a toddler in a dirty diaper and shit. Like I literally turned it off halfway through, and I haven't gone back. Someday I may.
Well,
it seems like one of those kind of shows though. So
yeah, I mean the thing with Breaking Bad though is Breaking Bad does a very good job if you're paying attention that you're not supposed to be rooting for Walter White to win. You're supposed to be mourning the fact that he just is going to continue losing the entire season, entire series.
Right.
It's just his slow eventual.
Yeah,
demise.
That's not really.
I will say Breaking Bad seemed like they planned it out, like it didn't, and it eventually ended. It didn't feel like they kept like renewing it because it was doing good. I don't know. Maybe there was some filler in the middle.
That's part of my love-hate relationship with Rick and Morty, Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
Because I love Rick and Morty. I haven't watched the latest season because I waited till I got binge. I'm gonna probably watch it this week when I'm on.
Okay.
But
good luck.
I love it. But the thing is, like, I get why the creators are so angry at it because people don't understand what the show is trying to say.
Well, you haven't seen season 4 yet, and honestly, here's the thing. I would like you to continue your thought. Literally go watch the 4th season and then come back and tell me that you're fucking right.
I'm curious because I know they've said on record that they are going to try to be much more blatant about what they're trying to say in the later seasons. Yeah, because apparently they were at cons getting like visibly and very forcefully very mad at some fans who came up to them and talked to them. Apparently, I read some interviews with both of them. They were like, we like had to like leave because we were so mad.
Yep.
They're like, you do not understand what we're trying to say in the show at all, and like the fact that you're taking the exact opposite message is like killing us inside.
Exactly. Yeah. Dan Harmon, as far as I know, may have stopped going to cons, and then Justin Roiland, for instance, he was at PAX 2 or 3 years ago, and literally like avoided the crowds. Like he was supposed to do. My understanding is that he was actually supposed to do a panel about the VR game that wasn't even Rick and Morty themed, and I think he actually bagged out on that. But then did social media posts about it. Didn't do the panel, but then was like posting about like, oh, we got great crowds there and stuff like that. And there was like in the wings up in like the VIP sections, like taking photos and stuff. And then like Beck and I went on this cruise, and
he was at the party.
Yeah, and he was up in the VIP, but then he wouldn't talk to anybody else. Like. You can tell, and I watched him, and
he had some toxic interactions.
Oh yeah, well, here's the thing: like, if we could ever say if I ever met either of them, I would just be like I wouldn't ever sit there and go deep on the show that. And that's been one of my things is that like even if I watch like the nerdiest of nerdiest shows, like I don't know Babylon 5 or whatever, for instance, like first of all, it's not a show, it's not my cup of tea, but if I ever got into it to the point where I'm rewatching it and I know every fucking line of every single episode, and I'm sitting there and I have theories I have holes in their theories or their plot lines or something, I would never walk up to the creators and be like, so you did this and you meant this, and but this happened and this is wrong.
I mean, yeah. Some people get really into a thing and they like their dream is to talk about the thing that they love with the person that made the thing. You know, even like I think we will probably understand that if we did that, it's going to be like not an exciting experience. It's probably going to be a letdown and maybe really awkward. Because like I guess they're envisioning that the creator will be like, yes, you did it. You got exactly what I was thinking about. Or like, that's maybe not even what they're asking. They're like, this was really cool. And I want to know more about how my favorite thing was made and just kind of like hearing about the process. So like, I understand why people do it. But like, also like, I feel like it would, I've stopped like going up to the people that I admire at cons and stuff and like asking for photos and things like that. Cause it's just like, it's never, it ruins sort of a facade of like, ooh, like, once you meet your heroes, it becomes less exciting.
You have to go with some realistic expectations. Like the thing that I find funny with like George Martin is he's talked about. Like I've met him twice. He's a nice guy, but like the thing with George Martin is like people talk about this like super deep stuff they talked about. He's like, I don't remember half of that crap.
Right, exactly.
He's like, I made it all up and I remember it, but like this like super detail, like that one sentence over here. He's like, I'd have to look at my notes. I don't know off the top of my head. Because the creators, a lot of times, they create it, they make it, they put it out there, and then it's over there.
Yeah.
Right? You don't go back there and read it like 9,000 times like we are. Yeah. We're consuming it. It's very different, right? It's like
And like the
a
things that
chef
will
makes his taco, then eats that taco for like 2 years, so he understands like all the complexities of that taco. Like it's you make it, you give it to other people, and it's for them to enjoy to some degree, right?
Yeah. And
You
like you
know?
can't predict like how they're gonna like experience the flavor of the taco and be like, oh, this reminds me of my childhood. And so like this weird thing that you didn't even think about putting in, like
No,
is the thing that they will pick up on and be like, all right, how could you think to put this in? And you're like, I didn't really. I just
no,
like threw it in. That
Exactly.
same sort of stuff like with games as well. It's like the little mechanics that you thought like no one was gonna interact with, like that's the ones that players will be like, oh gosh, tell me how this got created. Why did you choose to make this number 69? Was it a joke? And like the honest answer is just like, I don't think anyone was even thinking about it. We just didn't want it to go up to 70. And so it ended up being 69. It wasn't a conscious choice. Or like, why is this slot have a lock on it? Like, what are your plans to make this thing that has a lock on it? It's like, it's just literally we wanted to put room in the UI in case we wanted to expand it. Like, there's no plan.
yeah.
We just did a
Well,
thing.
well, for instance, like Jimmy and I met one of our heroes 2 years ago. Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
Bruce
I can't
Campbell.
believe that 2020 happened.
I know, right?
Yeah, gosh,
2 years
so
ago,
long ago.
Jim and I met Bruce Campbell, which has been I met him once before, very briefly. He was at a screening for a film, but this actually got to like talk to him for a little bit, which was great. It was something that I've always wanted to do. I know something Jimmy Yo said you always wanted to do too.
Oh, yeah.
It was great to meet him.
Very
But like Jimmy and I, we knew enough about Bruce Campbell as like a person, right? Not Ash Williams, right, or whoever, like not his characters, but as him. That I'm like I have a pretty good idea of who he is as a person, and like really what's important to him again as a individual, male human, not as like my ideas of who he is, which was good. But like I can see that it's tough if you can't separate that out. That I would probably do the same with the US fan. I'm like I'm gonna have a hard time separating that person from the character or the creations. I don't think I want to meet them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or like I'm getting like the same sort of level of enjoyment of like seeing them interact with other people who are
Sure.
like a little bit more excited, and I'm like I can appreciate them from this distance. I have the story to tell that I was here, but like I don't know, I guess there's also that element of like you get a story when you actually talk to the person. Like maybe they'll compliment you on your like shoes and you'll be like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, these are not my favorite shoes because
Well,
my
like
favorite person. Oh, Jimmy's got a story.
The Rock said I was a cool guy. So I mean,
Whoa, okay, actually that's really cool.
that's good.
The Rock says you're cool.
so really cool. I'm actually. It's funny because I'm the opposite. So I'm the opposite of Fenn, but I'm definitely a good mixture of Schofield. Where I first of all, so okay, so in my job in radio from '04 to 2012, for 8.5 years, I was on a morning show in Boston, and I met countless number of people, like people I like literally I have forgotten that I've met them and then remembered. Like I met Channing Tatum before he was Channing Tatum, like he like before he blew up into this huge person, and I
Is he
didn't
not? Did he have a name change or something?
sorry
Sorry, I need to
Before
look
he
into
was
this.
full, I think.
basically
Okay.
he was just some guy from like a dance movie, and he was promoting something else that I don't even remember what it was, and it didn't hit big. And then literally within like a year, all of a sudden he was just like Channing Tatum's fucking everywhere, and all of a sudden it's just like huge. And so like I met some, and then I've also met so many people that like have gone to the wayside, unfortunately, and stuff like that. But so for me though, I've always been able to separate and be like, okay, like I've met Simon Pegg 2 or 3 times, and I'm able to sit there and I'm able to separate him from Sean or the character he plays in Space,
Right.
wherever he was. And so I like that's Gilbert Godfrey is another great example. Like he's a comedian and he's this person and this person. And so like when I met these people, it was always I love this and this and this in your craft or whatever you've done. But I am also the opposite of Fenn, where I'm like, I want a story. Like I am one of those people. I will not lie. I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh my God, I got to interact with Guy Fieri and his manager gave me his card. Or Lisa Lampanelli, the comedian. I asked about Andy Dick's sexual preference, and she gave me a whole story about it. I know.
Like it might be different now. This might also be true for like conventions and stuff, but like a lot of those ones you were meeting in kind of a professional capacity, whereas like you were meeting not as like a fan. I mean, you
Right.
probably said you were a fan, but like it was a slightly different environment than like the con environment. Because I've also found like as once I got into like the game industry, I didn't end up like just meeting a lot of the people who were my heroes, just like working together. So it was like not a point where I was like going up and like interrupting their like meal to ask for photos and stuff like that. It was just straight up like we were in a booth and being like, oh hey, and like having cool stories like that. I'm like, that's a slightly different thing. But I don't know, maybe it's the same for you at conventions too, if like you wanted to go up and get those stories.
So at the station I got the one-on-one time with them. And it is funny actually, now I think about it, like Robert England, for instance. Like I got to meet him literally on a Friday morning before he went to Worcester and then did his first of 3 days at Rock and Shock. And I got the whole, like, first of all, I never had to pay for, nobody ever asked me for the money for the signatures or anything like that, or any pictures or anything. And also this was way before like people started asking for money for pictures. So like I got to do that interaction, and then I actually got to watch him because I was in a line next to him. I forget who I was meeting, but I was watching the interactions with them. And it was just weird to see people paying to interact with him when I got to do it for free just a few hours before that. But yeah, actually, and a quick side story. I didn't know that you had to pay for signatures. So my first time going to one of these conventions, I walked right up to one of the women from the first Cabin Fever film with my DVD, and she signed it. I turned around, and the guy's like, "Yo, you gotta pay for that." And I had to turn around and be like, oh, "I have to go to the ATM. I'll be right back." Here's my. I was literally like, "Here's my DVD, and I'll be right back." And I have to go find an ATM. And then and I knew the guy that's running the thing, and he ended up going over and asking for the money back.
Really? That's so awkward.
I was so fucking horrified. I couldn't even look in her general direction anymore for the rest of the 3 days.
Well, that's a good point to it as well. Like if you're working as like a professional interviewing these people, right? Or like this is kind of part of like they're agreed to be here, you've agreed to be here in a certain capacity. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Or going to a con, right?
Yeah.
And like meeting like like I said, we met Bruce Campbell. Like that makes sense. Like it's a very structured. Like I am paying for the opportunity to have a photo with you, which I think is fun, great.
Yeah.
But like, there are certain people that I think I would be fine at meeting at a certain venue like that. But there are certain stuff like I don't think I would want to meet them or meet them in a more casual setting because I think it would just be weird, right? Uh-huh. Like my boss told a story about a guy who was supposed to meet Felicia Day and chickened out, right? Because he like bought like a big thing to go see Felicia Day or whatever. I'm like, I would be creeped out as a 40-year-old man spending a ton of money to go have like lunch with Felicia Day. Not because I would be freaked out about it, because I'm like, what is she thinking about this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm a huge Stephen King fan
right now,
right? I've been to a couple book signings, like book readings that he's done. Like I've never met him, but I've like been at stuff he's done. But like, do I want to meet Stephen King and like sit down and talk with him? No, because I just think that would be really bizarre, right? Like why? I mean, it would be great for me, but I'm like, I would feel like awkward as shit for him. Well, right? Like that would be weird.
I think if it was,
especially for like I'm also a big Matthew Mercer fan. I'm a big Critical Role guy. Like I've been playing D&D for like my entire life, right? So it's a very important thing to me, and he's like the biggest name in D&D right now, right? And he's even more susceptible to that than King because he's much more of a normal person than Stephen King is.
Oh yeah,
Stephen King has been a very famous person for a very long time. I'm sure he's used to it. Mercer's only been a pretty household name for what, 10 years? Not even 10 years, right? So I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that because I would just be like, I don't want to come across as this like, fanboy, like running around like screaming like the Beatles are getting off the goddamn plane, right?
I think as long as you don't do that though. So
no, but like
what else do you do?
Yeah, I'd be self-conscious of like that's...
Yeah, I have it in my brain. So I've met a bunch of these people at like parties and stuff, and like I have in my brain that I cannot talk to them about the thing that they are known for. Like I have to think of anything else. Like, oh, let's talk about the music. Let's talk about our drinks. Like, let's not talk about the thing that I absolutely want to talk to you about.
Not only
like,
that guy.
I feel like it's awkward for them.
Right.
Which is probably not. But.
And that's one thing I actually tried to do when I was meeting when I met Jesse Eisenberg, for instance. Like he had just done. Sorry, I am going to name drop for the rest of this entire.
I know, just like the nonstop.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to do it. I don't care.
Also, in my brain, Jesse Eisenberg is just from the Social Network, so like he's very awkward and probably a dick.
He is. So
yeah, I've heard that he is very awkward.
So when I met him, I was it was not right after, but it was a couple years after Zombieland had come out. So I got him to sign it, and his awkwardness rubbed off on me for a moment. And I was like, "So Woody Harrelson, what was it like working with him?" And he looked at me, and goes, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I heard he smokes a lot of pot." I don't know why I fucking said that. To this day, I don't know why.
What did he say?
Any of that.
He's just like, yeah.
You got it.
I tried doing I literally like the Rock thing. I had to go down to the front of the building and literally bring him and his posse in. And like it was like his manager, his PR person, and he had hurt his ankle. It was when he was filming the football Disney film in like the early 2000s or whatever. It was the game.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember
the game plan.
I don't.
So he had injured he had injured his foot. So they filmed it. It's his role in the movie. I've never seen it. Is he's a football player who finds out he has a daughter. Not the most original thing in the world, but anyways, he had actually hurt his foot in real life, and so he had his doctor with him. And so I just, knowing that this guy's already being a big name and his name is blowing up, this applies to anybody I met. Like I'm just like, in my head, I have to sit there and especially it's like I said, Simon Pegg, for instance, I have to calm down and not be like that overbearing person. Or I also consciously was trying not to bring up the biggest thing that they've been in and try to dwell on that, unless if I'm like a super fan of that one item. But like I tried, like I said, Jesse Eisenberg, for instance, had I believe he had just done The Social Network, and then he was in plugging the flop that was after that. But anyways, Zombieland was not. I mean, it's more of a cult film kind of thing. But yeah, it's just one of those like try not to dwell on like that one thing. But speaking of that one thing, by the way, Schofield, we got to know, what's your guilty pleasure, man?
I thought we were almost out of time.
No, I don't care. Oh, we'll go over. We'll go over if we have to.
All right. So, generally speaking, like I've said, I like movies that are very narratively focused, right? That have really good stories. Like I really like.
Stop checking your phone.
Yeah, right.
I know what you were looking at too, because I saw it too, and I didn't make a big deal about it.
Like Avatar: The Last Airbender is, like I said, it's a great example of it, right? Like things that have a very narrative focus. Most of Buffy was like that. I really like the end of like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The last few seasons are very narratively focused, which is great. So my guilty pleasure is not at all that, because it is reality television. So like my big guilty pleasure that I get very excited about to watch is actually The Bachelor.
Oh my god!
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, I watched The Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, the whole friggin' thing. I remember watching it a long time ago with my mother. I was very young. I would like sit like the foot of her bed and watch it, and we like laugh and make fun of it and watch it, which is pretty cool. But a lot of it is like me making fun of it up until the end, right? Like the first like 3/4 of it is just hilarious. Because it's just people being absolutely stupid, right? And a lot of it, unfortunately, is you can tell the producers are kind of like pushing the drama more than they probably should, right? I mean, it's already a concept that's going to have a lot of drama in it. You don't need to do it, but they do. So they push it pretty hard, but it's funny. People do some really, really stupid stuff, and some really interesting personal conflict comes out of it, which I find really fun. But usually the last quarter of it or so, it's when people go, oh, shit, this is not just a television show. There's actually people with feelings involved. Mm-hmm. Crap. And then like you have like the last 3 or 4 people like, oh no, these people are actually invested. Now what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. And I actually find that to be very interesting as well, because all of a sudden everything that drops away and they're like, no, now I'm actually like really upset because I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. And like, I don't want to hurt these people because now I should care about them because we just had this really intense experience the last like 6 months talking to each other. So it's a nice, like very like throwaway kind of plot sort of thing. It's very cheesy and very stupid and very like meme worthy and very you make fun of it. And then all of a sudden it will flip and turn on its ear. In the last few episodes, you're like, now there's actually some really interesting emotional stuff going on with it. And I find it interesting too from a sociological standpoint because so much of it doesn't work between these people, and it's always external stuff that pushes them apart, right? It's society. The fact that they didn't realize, like, well, I live in LA and I live in Chicago. Well, that's going to be a fucking problem if you guys are going to try to, like, get married. Like, where are you going to live? Both going to move to Montana? Like, you have to find some place where you're both going to cohabitate, right? Or that falls apart. Or they do something stupid, like the most recent one, where the girl kind of got called out because she was really doing some really racist stuff years ago. And then they didn't really handle it very well. And that whole thing fell apart. So it's interesting to see like how their relationship that is in a bubble on the show is so strong and like looks so good when you actually open up to their influencers, like their families or their friends and the world, how does it work? And very often it just completely blows apart. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to watch that happen. As sad as it is sometimes, it's very interesting to watch that and see it like get ripped to shreds. So that's my guilty pleasure.
Interesting. That's one that I think I'm a little bit too empathetic to enjoy reality TV. My mother loves reality TV, like Housewives, all that stuff, and my brain can't get around a lot of time that it's fake. Probably like a lot of the drama is made up, but I just like feel so bad. Like if I was in that situation, I would be so embarrassed, and I can't get around that. But I do. It's another one of those ones where people get very passionate about The Bachelor.
Oh,
The
yeah.
the McElroy, one of the brothers, used to have a podcast with his wife where
Yeah.
they would just review it, and that I would love because they would just give me like the Spark Notes like description of all the candidates and like who was good and what moments were exciting, so I didn't have to like deal with any of the like firsthand stuff. But yeah, that's another one where I could probably like grin and bear it if I had like a group of people that were also really invested. It seems like one of those ones where if you have friends to watch it with and like
Good
talk
group
about
watch.
with it, it's like a good group watch.
There is definitely some manufactured drama in there. Like they obviously bring stuff in. Like this person didn't show up now. You brought them in now because it's a problem, and that's why you're doing it, right? But there is a lot of stuff that happens. You're like they didn't expect that to happen. That's just
Yeah.
like oh shit, that's not good, and then they have to deal with it, right? But I like it. I like people. I like interactions with other people, and like this is about as real as you're gonna get in a reality show, right? You're never gonna get real,
Right.
right? With the Bachelor and the Bachelorette, especially in the earlier ones, was pretty good. Like I really liked right at the beginning of the pandemic on Netflix. They had this show Love Is Blind. Have you guys watched that?
No, I think I heard of it though.
So it's basically the same thing. It was a bunch of women, a bunch of men, and they would kind of like mix each other. Like, okay, I'm going to talk with woman one, and then tomorrow I'm going to talk with woman four. But they were behind glass; they couldn't see each other.
Oh yeah.
And this went on for like a while, and then they basically were like, "You guys both have to choose to meet each other," and they met each other, and then what happened afterwards? And they're like, then now that you're dealing with your families and you can see each other, does the relationship continue? And that was good because I don't think there was any producer involvement. It was very much like, this is what we're gonna do.
Conversations.
We're gonna see what happens.
Okay.
So that one was great for that. I really enjoyed that. Like I'm a real romantic at heart too. I'm the softie in the relationship between my wife. I cry all the time.
Yeah, I know. Same here. Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm,
Have you ever seen Terrace House?
no, I don't even know what that is.
It's a Japanese style show, and I guess it's similar to like a Big Brother or like one where like they're in a house and they're watching you, but there's no like producer stuff at all to like give them things to talk about. It's just literally they let like us several young people live in a house together and just record it, and they like go to work and stuff like that. And usually there's some sorts of romance that happens, even if it's like not necessarily between the people in the house. Sometimes they have people outside the house that they're dating and stuff. And it's just like the most wholesome, realistic. I mean, I'm sure some of it is also people pretending because you're in front of cameras, whatever, but like it doesn't feel like other reality shows. It feels just like realistic, and you get very attached to these people and their lives and when they have relationships. And then they just kind of naturally will leave the house at some point where they're like, all right, I've been here for like several months and now I'm going to go off and go back to my job or whatever. Like, no one gets voted out. Every so often there's like something dramatic that leads to them leaving the house, but like it's just like such a difference from the
I'm
kind
give
of
that a shot.
reality TV we get.
That looks
You should
really
definitely check it out. The one where they do, I think it's called Boys and Girls in the City. Oh, the other thing, okay. Sorry, I really love Terrace House. They don't have like producer moments where like you talk to the camera and like talk about what you're feeling, but they do every so often cut back to like a panel of like five people that are watching the show like you are, and they just kind of comment on it. So like
Huh.
it feels like you're with a group of people, and they're not like, I guess there's some comedians and stuff in there, so like it's entertaining, but like that's like as exciting as it gets in terms of
Right.
like interactions from the producers like making things happen. But like judging by what you said, what you like from these shows, I feel like you would really enjoy it. Sometimes it's very slow to start out because it is just like they're not manufacturing drama, but like by the end of it, like the smallest things you get really invested in, and like when people decide to leave the house, you're like very sad, and then someone new comes in, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to open my heart to this new person that's coming into the
Right.
house yet.
Yeah, because then you'll be like, no, you're gonna ruin everything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all have weird quirks too. Like there was one guy who came in and was like, "Yeah, my pastimes are crumping which is something I've not heard since the mid 2000s.
Oh my
Someone
God,
who crumps
dude.
professionally, but like that was his thing. He like
Crumps
went on
professionally.
music videos and crumped and stuff, and he ended up being like one of my favorite people in the end. But I was just like, what?
But no, get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I make my wife watch it because she was not really invested in it, but she likes it. But it's interesting, and it's one of the few things that I actually like watching week to week, right? Because usually, like, my wife hates binging stuff. She can't binge stuff. It's very, very few shows I've got her to binge. We like ripped through Lost when it was first on because she was behind. She thought it was really good, so we ripped through that. We binged Steven Universe. We both really enjoyed. We ripped through that. That was a great show. Right, Gravity Falls on Disney on
the show I've got, yeah,
great show, right? We ripped through that, but like, it has to be like very specific. Firefly, we ripped through. It has to be like really good shows.
Firefly is easy to rip through.
It is, but still, it's still like 10 hours, right? It's still like not short, comparatively. But she just doesn't do that. I get like really like, oh, I can't wait week to week. I hate waiting week to week. The Bachelor I like because it's a 2-hour show on Mondays. It's not short. It's a lot of content. But it's nice to have that looking forward to, like, oh, we're curious, and then she and I will talk about it, like, what the hell's going to happen? Like, is that person going? Is he going to be an idiot and go with this person? And we like, oh, I get super mad because a lot of times the Bachelor, especially, not when the women are in charge so much, but when the men are in charge, they make stupid goddamn decisions because they're just thinking with their dick the entire time. And you're like, God, yeah, she's hot. She's hotter than that girl, but that girl's like smart and put together and really funny. And the other girl's bland as hell as a bitch, but she's hotter. So it's like, I'll go with her. I'm like, you idiot.
But like, that bubble coming into effect.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Decisions
We're like, stupid son of a bitch. But but we get like really agitated and stuff like that. But it's fun. It's fun for her and I watch together. Like you said, Finn, it's good with like a couple of people. Like my wife and I watch together is really fun. But if we had like, more people around and we weren't in quarantine, it'd be fun to have a few people over, have like, a pizza and a couple of drinks and watch and just scream at the idiot on the screen. It's a good time.
Yeah, I do miss that like reoccurring sort of like time of my week. I've never been super on top of watching things the same time each week. But like when I do have that anchor in my life, I do find it fun because then you're like, oh, I'm gonna like make sure that I get my food done beforehand.
Yeah, I actually find I miss it when there's like the gaps between the shows. Like there's like the winter Bachelorette and Bachelor, and then the Bachelorette's in the spring. Then there's one in the summer, right? There's like kind of like everyone else kind of does something, and in the winter there's nothing. In the winter I'm like, kind of sucks though, because I'm like, I kind of miss having that Monday thing we always do, right?
What else are you going to look forward to in winter
in California? How do they not have a winter
episode? Because they film The Bachelor during the winter, so they can play it at the end of the winter. And then they film The Bachelorette right after that, so they put it in the spring. And then when that's happening, they film the third show. They need like a break for people to have, like lives, Jimmy. So, okay.
Honestly, with how much money ABC is making off of all those series, they should just. I'm surprised.
This is how they do it. They
make tons of money.
Oh yeah.
Tons of money.
Well, I will admit, I watched the first season of each Bachelor and Bachelorette, maybe first 2 seasons, and then just fell off. But
yeah, it got a lot better as it went along. I mean, but there is a little bit more manufactured drama, which I get annoyed. And it's funny, the last couple of seasons, I feel like a lot of the fans were like, "Would you just leave it alone?" Like it's already a dramatic situation by itself. The way you've set up is already very dramatic. Butt out and just let it happen.
Right.
Instead of being like, "Oh, look, this person's coming in like 3 weeks late. What's going to happen?" Everyone like explodes and kills the woman. Well, of course they're going to get pissed, right? Because they've already been trying to be in a relationship with this guy, and then this woman walks in 3 weeks in. Of course they're going to be pissed at her. Like, what are you doing? Right. Like, whoa, what will happen? Like, you know exactly what's happening, you idiots. So, exactly.
That note.
Drama's coming out.
Wow.
It's true.
Oh,
hey. Well, I feel like I've learned so much about both of you. These are not the things that I expected you guys to say today.
Well, there you go.
Wait, how are you that shocked that I love a kids show? Come on.
I mean, I don't know what you think of me, but I don't think my coworkers are actively watching like children's shows for like the content. I assume you'll watch it with your kid, but like your favorite things will be something else.
Right. But like I said, you gotta give Disney Plus, BLUEY, 7 to 8 minutes each.
I kind of don't want to like jump into it now because I feel like if I ever do have kids, I'm gonna be inundated with children's shows, and I don't want to like lose the excitement of a good one now.
You want the good kid show, Jimmy?
It's rewatchable, trust me.
You want another good kid show that you'll find quite funny? I feel like because you can make fun of it while it's still teaching you some stuff.
Okay.
Watch the Octonauts.
Octonauts.
Very good.
Okay.
It's a
Watch
bunch
the
of
Backyardigans. They've got great
Backyardigans.
music.
Oh, Backyardigans. Okay.
You can watch Yo Gabba Gabba. The Jack Black episode's quite good. Jack Black is hilarious.
Teletubbies.
No, don't watch
They've
that.
got secret messages in there.
No, don't do that. The Octonauts are a bunch of anthropomorphic animals who are living under like the bottom of the ocean, doing like aquatic, like marine biologist experiments, and it's hilarious because it starts making fun of itself at certain times. It's like it's quite good. It's very very funny, but it's like kind of like in a little bit in the vein of like the 1950s, like Johnny Quest sort of cartoons as well. There's a bit of that to it. It's better than I thought it was going to be. Like we watched it as a joke, my wife and I. We ended up watching a lot of it like before bed, which is very calming before bed. And we're like, this is actually like a halfway decent show. Like we're like kind of surprised by how good this show actually is.
All right, so now you've learned more about Schofield.
Yeah, truly, my eyes have been open today.
I have extraordinarily eclectic tastes. That's
Yeah, you do.
That is not a surprise to me.
Yeah.
I'm all over
Actually, I would have been less surprised to hear that Schofield, with no child, was watching children's shows than I am to hear
That's
that's Jimmy's.
yeah,
Like, I thought your guilty pleasure to me was going to be something, I don't know, completely different.
For me? Really?
Yeah.
Like what? Oh,
I don't know.
I'm
You could have said anything else and I would have been less surprised.
I think,
Wow.
and I think your guilty pleasure, my guilty pleasure, are much more like guilty pleasures that you're like, I'm kind of embarrassed I'm watching this, as opposed to
Yeah, I'm
yours
very
yours
guilty
is
about
kind of
my
like
pleasure.
endearing, almost in a way. Like I'm watching
Also
that-
understandable because you have a child. If you said that and
Yeah.
you didn't have a child, I would have been like, hell yeah, on board. That's guilty.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Although it is funny. So the intro of the show, it's like the family's dancing, and then like the music's going, and it stops, and it goes, "Mom," and then it goes, and then it stops, and it goes, "Dad," and then it goes, "Bingo," and then it goes, "Bluey." And so I yelled it like that in that kind of voice whenever they do them. Even though it's funny, I've watched 70 episodes of this freaking show, and I can't nail the fucking timing of the goddamn thing. But anyways. But I bought a little Bluey figurine. First of all, the big ones were $20. The small one's like $7.50, which was reasonable. But for whatever reason, shut up, fucking both of you. This is for my kids, not for me. Anyway,
Sure,
Oh, sure.
sure.
Turn the camera around. Let me see your desk.
Yeah, right.
So
It's just all Bluey figurines across the whole thing.
So what's funny though is that I brought it out when the show's intro was playing, and I'm like, hey, buddy, Bluey, and he just kind of looked at, he kind of went, ha ha, and then he went back to the show. He has not touched the figurine, which is weird because he loves stuffed animals.
But I think he's a little bit too young to like make the connection, probably,
Yeah, probably.
like between the screen
Oh, no.
colors and.
So when we watched it a second time, I did the hey Bluey, and he's like, ha ha ha. I'm not gonna touch it. Okay, okay. I want to watch him. I want to watch her on TV. Like, I don't know how it was kind of weird. Like he realizes that it's a tangible item that he can grab, but for some reason doesn't want to grab it because she's on the TV. I don't know.
Well, he's like, there's two different modes there. There's the watching and paying attention and the playing.
Yeah.
I guess.
Try
Maybe
when
that's
he's
a
not
good sign
watching
that he doesn't have ADHD. Because like if that was me, I would need to be playing with something else while also watching a TV show, while listening to a podcast, while writing my memoir, like multitasking crazy. But he's just like full focus on Bluey.
You know what? I will not be surprised if he ends up with the ADHD, but I'm sorry, buddy. What's funny, the entire time the monitor's been on him. So every time we mention him, I'm always like, okay, he's on that note though, I should get going because
I gotta make some dinner. It's late. I gotta do that, and then we're gonna watch the Great Food Truck Race on Food Network.
it's a great show.
It was a great show. It's fun, very fun. Yeah. Tyler Florence is a friggin' crazy man, though. he was on Worst Cooks in America with Ann Burrell, who I love. Ann Burrell.
Oh my god!
She's
if we can get her on the show, I would.
Interview her, Alton Brown, Alice Warner Shelley are like my favorites. But anyway,
Alton Brown. Oh my god!
Alton Brown is like my hero. But anyway,
yeah.
I went to his live show. It was great. But he was on Worst Cooks, and he's like the whole time he's like, I'm not a braggy kind of guy, but this is the best show you're ever gonna taste. Like, I'm not a braggy kind of guy, but man, I make good donuts. It's just some random shit. There's a whole like clip of him just doing it over and over again for like 10 minutes. It was like the funniest damn thing. And now I watch Food Truck Race, and that's all I can think of. He's like, well, I'm not a braggy kind of guy, but I would have beaten you all in this Food Truck Race myself. No question.
Hilarious.
So funny. Yeah, I'm a big Food Network guy too.
Oh yeah, no, same here. So, all right. On that note, you know what? Maybe we'll do an episode where we review Food Network programs.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we
It's been
just
a long
talk
time
about,
since I've watched Food Network. All my references are going to be very old.
I was about to say, or we talk about the personalities on there too. Anyways, on that note, I love how we're just pre-programming already. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.